when COVID happened and people were stuck in their houses, etc. Um, I don't know if it was that or it was just maybe a generational thing where it was like a flip in how kids were.
So today, what sparked the inspiration for me on this one?
You said you were
Um,
talking to a team.
yeah, so I wanted to talk today about like something like kids being able to talk to adults, being able to speak to adults,
Meaning coaches, older
coaches, older
players.
players, teachers, just
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And this is going to kind of go outside of the hockey specific a little bit today because it's just like a good thing for kids in general.
Yeah.
It's not really like a sport specific thing necessarily.
But definitely can be used for hockey.
Definitely can be used for
and
hockey.
we're going to talk in
Right.
hockey terms mostly.
Right. So, what I've noticed is whether it's kids on the treadmill or those classes that I have, or even some of the AAA kids that I'm training, younger, and then even into the 17, 18, 19, 20 range, I just feel like we are doing a poor job as teachers, as parents, as coaches, as fill in the blank, whatever else, as influencers of the kids, preparing them to like be mature and effective communicators with people that are going to end up being important in life. Um, and just a few examples, just to get the ball rolling. I was with the one junior team that we train on the one day, and I'm talking to some of these guys, and I'm more or less saying to them, like, as their trainer, like, I don't say it like this, but basically my point is to them, I know a lot more than you guys do about off ice things. So use me, extract like all the juice out of me that you can. And I find myself like constantly reiterating that to them, but very seldom or very few kids actually take advantage of that. They actually come and speak to me. And this was kind of the start of my feeling of like, why is that interaction so difficult? Like, why is it so hard for younger kids to talk to an older person? And for them, like, for all they know, I'm basically their age, right? So I'm very close, but even though I'm still an adult, I'm still older than them, whatever. Maybe they're not as comfortable with me, but that kind of got the gears going for me about um, why is that interaction so hard? Now, if I play that in another example with some of the classes I teach with the younger kids that are younger than that, because those guys are like 16 to 20, the younger kids, it's like you ask them a question and their answer is like, I don't know. Or they don't want to raise their hand to try. They don't want to guess. Or how many times, you run into another adult somewhere, they have their kid and their kid just like doesn't say hello or doesn't interact, doesn't make the interaction. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that as an issue and then maybe like some solutions to that, why it can be helpful, why it can be beneficial, why it's a good thing to try to teach your kids to do. Um, all of that centered around the kid or young player to adult, whether that's parent, coach, whoever, interaction. Prepare them for that. Or even another example would be like, you're preparing the kids for their interviews, right? OHL interviews. And you talk to some of these kids and they just can't speak. Like they just don't have any skills developed, right?
I have two theories, maybe three, maybe more, you know. But I don't say this loosely. I question when COVID happened and people were stuck in their houses, etc. I don't know if it was that or it was just maybe a generational thing where it was like a flip in how kids were, because it was very very clear to me. Not no, no, I wouldn't say clear to me, but it was very puzzling to me how all of a sudden there was a one age group. Like I could see the difference. I don't want to say the age because I don't want to center out kids, but there was a certain age where the kids were on the ice talking, that you'd be in here, there'd be energy. It was always talking, talking, talking. And then it was like almost, not almost, it was like the following year, it was like almost dead silence. And the communication, it was like, it's always a rough hour. And you're always almost begging them to talk and have energy. You're saying the same things all the time, guys. You understand the drill, you need to say yes. Yes is an answer. Like sitting there trolling for flies is not an answer. Like you need to communicate. So, and it's constantly saying that. And I find it's very from that group down, it's been prevalent. Like it's more that than energy. And the second thing I would say, and I don't think I'm so the first one about the COVID situation, I don't know if that played a role in it or if it was generational, like just a thing. And the second thing I would say that is I would say that I'm probably right, but these are just my thoughts. Is I think people are on their phones so much and distracted so much that for someone to communicate, and I know this, kids will communicate. Well, actually, I thought it was through texting and stuff, but it's even my kid. It's my wife was like, hey, "You need to get back to me." He goes, "Mom, I'm always like if I talk, it's usually on Snapchat, so I don't see it all the time." I'm like, "He's an idiot. There's no way," but it's actually a thing. So you almost have to figure out what their method of social media is to communicate without doing the cross the table speaking. So I'm sure that's a piece to it. But it's just so refreshing when you can sit down and a kid comes in and says, "Hey, how you doing, coach?" And have a 2 minute conversation.
Yeah, and maybe there will come a time when like the verbal communication with the like physical cues is no longer relevant. Like I'm flashing to a Elon Musk talk I heard where he was saying like, "Oh yeah, eventually we'll be able to like speak without words. Like we'll just be able to trade thoughts." And
You don't want
it's
to know
like
what's going on
yeah,
here.
it's like hey, then this won't apply when that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
But
yeah,
until then,
yeah.
my question or the first thing that I want people to understand because when I blame us, whether that's parents, coaches, the people that are in charge of the kids for doing this partially, right? Because like you're saying, it could be just the technological thing is just making how we interact much different. That could be a part of it, but we are doing a poor job. That is the bottom line because I've noticed that it doesn't take much to
Y-
pull that out
You're
of
not
kids.
old either. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Like it doesn't take a lot of encouragement or a lot of coaching or a lot of teaching to get kids to start doing that, right? When they're young. When they're older and it's more ingrained habit, then it's a lot more difficult, like anything, to teach anyone anything. But when they're young, like it really doesn't take a whole lot. And I notice that with the classes, they come in here, there's a lot of shyness, a lot of quietness. But you start talking, you ask them a few questions, you make them answer, you make them think about things, and they start to have it where there's a little bit of life to them and they're able to speak now in spite of that gap between an age between me and them or them and their teachers or whatever. But first, I'll throw this to you just more of as a general statement before I go into like these um, little ways that I broke it down, I guess, is kind of like why being able to speak to adults matters. Like, why do you think that that's an important skill or an important thing to be able to do as a kid, as a young player, as an athlete, and specifically if you want to go that way? Um, and for me, mine's like very simple. It's like the people that are older than you or people that are in a higher position than you or whatever, those are the people that are going to give you opportunities in life at some point. And it's not the only reason, but one of the major reasons, if I put it into the hockey domain specifically, is that if you cannot effectively communicate with those people, you're going to cost yourself some opportunities from that alone. And the first example that I give is that interviews. Like if you have two great players, they're both the exact same, everything's the exact same, and then you go and speak to them, and the one kid can't put a sentence together and the other kid can, then guess who gets the opportunity? And I think that's the most important thing from a hockey perspective for me is like, or even just a getting a job, like getting a talking to people. Like the opportunities are going to come because you can make a connection, because you can network and get people to know you and feel comfortable with who you are as a person. So for me, that's the answer. I don't know if what your thoughts are on that
Yeah.
particular question.
What I think is why it's important is because, like, I'm going to back it up a little bit.